So this is satellite imagery showing the effects of Indian military strikes into Pakistani territory over the last couple days. We're going to run through a handful of these different images that are showing the effect of these strikes against air defense locations as well as some airfields. In some cases, it's clear that something happened. Others, not so much, but we're going to run through it all. We also have a report that India was, quote, shocked at Pakistan's response to recent military operations. Now, starting with this satellite imagery, what we have is over the course of the last few hours, India has released these images. They went through a briefing. I'm going to zoom in on the screen so you can see this a little bit better to show the before and after. This is showing the effect against military targets. Now, we've already seen the footage before and after and during of strikes against the terrorist camps that India carried out to begin Operation Sindoor. Nothing really surprising there. We've got the full gambit of footage before, during, and after the strike. Against military targets is a different story, and this is, from what I'm tracking, the first indications from either side that these strikes were carried out and had some degree of effectiveness. Now, starting out here, we have this presentation was put together by Air Marshal A.K. Bharti of the Indian Air Force. Let's go ahead and start playing it here, beginning with the air defense strikes.
Zoomed up view. This is the radar mounted on a high tower. And after the strike, this is what has happened. This radar has been taken out, completely burnt. Next slide, please. The Chunia air defense radar, which was taken out on 7th and 8th. This is the radar site. A blown up photograph, once again, on a tower. Not very clear, but what you see very clearly is the after effect after we have struck. The radar head has been completely decapitated. Next slide, please. Arifwala air defense radar. In this complex, you see how it looked before, blown up image, and after, really blown up. Next.
All right, I'm going to be honest. Some of those you can tell something happened. Others, not so much. I've been looking around for a clearer set of imagery. Can't find any right now. It definitely looks like in each one of those pictures, something happened. Something has changed. I don't know that across the board at this point I could say definitively that every one of those air defense radars was destroyed. Now, the reason that those assets are being, anybody goes after those at all, is it's the early warning system. So you take out the enemy's eyes, essentially, right? So what this would do, if they were able to effectively destroy even 5, 10, 20% of Pakistan's air defense radar, it shuts down what they're able to see in terms of future operations to carry out attacks, be those missiles, drones, or manned aircraft. Radars are expensive and complex and hard to get up in operation. Most countries don't have a lot of those lying around. So that would be, if each one of these was at least damaged, if not completely destroyed, that would be a significant loss to the Pakistani military capabilities. But moving over to the airfields here, this one's a little more nuanced because we definitely see some damage, but in other cases, it's just not a lot. But let's go ahead and head back over to Air Marshal A.K. Bharti here for his comments on the airfields.
Now coming to Sargodha airfield. Remember, this is one of their important airfields wherein they have a lot of assets, F-16s, other assets which they keep getting, training institutes. And we have stuck this airfield. It is not, if you zoom in here, then one impact point here on the runway and second impact point of our weapon, precision weapon on the runway. And if you see, this blown up, repairing going on. Same here. Next. Rahimyar Khan. This is the area we have stuck.
Now I want to pause real quick to talk about a couple different ways that airfields can be attacked. What you're seeing here in these first couple clips are cratering the airfields. It's taking the airfield out of commission for a short period of time. I mean, as he mentions, you can already see that the repairs are underway. What this means is that aircraft, depending on the size and the quantity of the craters inflicted on the runway, certain aircraft may not be able to land at all, and for others, or land or take off, and for others, it just may be much more challenging to actually utilize that airstrip. Again, though, they can be fixed relatively quickly, but if you look at some of the pictures there, given the location of those strikes, those are precision strikes, hitting the airfields in very, very specific locations. But there's another aspect here as well, which would be going after some of the harder structures, some of the command and control facilities, maybe control towers, and where some of the aircraft are stored. And we're going to see that here in a second.
A deep strike out here and one complex here. So this is how it looked before, and same. You see a big crater, another crater here, and this complex, after strike, neutralized. Next. Chaklala Airfield, Noor Khan, once again a major air base, a lot of their logistic assets out here. This was the chosen complex that we intended to strike and convey a message. Next slide, please. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after our strike. Next. Sakar. We chose the radar site at Sakar. This is the radar site, and after it was struck, this is the aftermath, completely burnt out. Next, please. Aircraft shelter. This is how it looked before the strike, and this is how it looked after the strike. The roof of the buildings completely caved in and burnt. Next. Bolari Airfield, aircraft hangar. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looked after the precision strike. Next. Jacobabad, aircraft hangar, and this is how it looked after.
All right, so pretty clearly, at least with some of those airframe shelters, like there's some destruction there, no doubt, right? And if there was anything stored inside, it's probably at the very least damaged, if not destroyed. A key note here when looking at the choice of targets and how India went after these is they were going after military capabilities and military assets, not necessarily personnel. And I think that's important to keep in mind as we watch to see how this conflict continues to play out. It's always easier to escalate. There's a clearer path towards escalation when people are killed. When platforms, equipment, locations are damaged or even destroyed, it's a little bit harder of an argument to go all out and respond over the top. So what we're seeing here are short-term damaging strikes against the airfields, and then longer-term damage, no doubt, but still against equipment and assets like radars, possibly aircraft, some of the hangars, etc. So from this series of strikes, at least, it does look like India was going after some of those military capabilities, not necessarily any military personnel, which could be argued that it's one of the reasons that the two sides were able to come to a at least temporary ceasefire agreement yesterday. Now, in yesterday's video, we recorded it, got it ready to go, and all of a sudden there was news that the ceasefire had been put in place. Some details on that, but right away, I mean, it barely lasted an hour, and we already started to get reports from both sides of violations of the ceasefire. The Indian Foreign Secretary said there were repeated violations by Pakistan, citing artillery shelling and drone activities along the line of control. And then Pakistan's foreign minister denied initiating any of these violations and instead accused India of breaching the ceasefire. Now, what may have taken place here is the ceasefire, if it was announced rapidly, which it seems like it was, it's entirely possible that that message didn't make it all the way down to the forwardmost troops, and contact continued as it had for a couple days, and it wasn't an intentional breach of the ceasefire. It was not everybody got the word that they were supposed to stand down and not attack. I should note that after a little bit of skirmishing back and forth, we saw no further large attacks, no large missile or air attacks into opposing territory. And it seems like after that, those couple skirmishes, there largely has been a ceasefire now for coming on 24 hours. So it does seem like something there was able to hold. I'm not super confident that this is going to hold for the long term, just kind of looking at the messaging between the two. I mean, we've seen countless Indian accounts already talk about how they have completely destroyed the Pakistani military and they humbled India and put them in their place. But we also have the Pakistani Prime Minister put out an address to the nation yesterday where he congratulated the Pakistani nation on their historic victory, saying, "We did to the enemy what a dignified nation does. Our forces have written a golden chapter in military history by responding in a decisive manner. Our brave and our soldiers silenced the Indian guns in a way that history will remember." And yes, I know in any conflict, both sides are always looking for the out to say, like, actually, we won. I just wonder how much that does to actually tamp down the tensions that were there, and does it leave an opening for things to continue on in a violent path? Now, there was an interesting report that came out yesterday from CNN where they say that India was actually shocked by Pakistan's response. They say, quote, "A Pakistani government source familiar with the negotiations that led to a truce with India said the United States played a crucial role. The agreement came after an intense day of fighting that left both sides fearing the tit-for-tat strikes could spiral out of control." They say the source said that both sides were progressing towards an agreement on Friday, but that Islamabad was blindsided, Pakistan was blindsided by India's targeting 3 Pakistani air bases with air-to-surface missiles early Saturday morning. In response, Pakistan fired back a much larger salvo that targeted the air bases in India, as well as military targets near the line of control. An eye for an eye, the Pakistani military said in a statement on Saturday morning. The source said that India had been shocked by the scale of Pakistan's response, and that both sides then got serious about engaging in peace talks later Saturday. By mid-afternoon, neither side had launched fresh strikes, and 2 hours later, the ceasefire was announced. And as mentioned, it seems like there was a kind of a rocky start to the ceasefire, but it does appear to be in effect now. In terms of the U.S. involvement in these ceasefire negotiations, I haven't really spoken much about that. That has been just as confusing as everything else. We've had a couple senior U.S. officials come out when this was kicking off a few days ago and say, we're just not going to get involved at all, and kind of take the hands-off approach. And then all of a sudden, this ceasefire came out, and there were some senior U.S. officials stepping in, kind of taking credit for mediating the ceasefire. It does appear that there was some U.S. conversation in the background, but I'm not entirely clear at this point what role the United States played. The big picture here is not what or any role did the United States play. The big picture is that there is a ceasefire in place between India and Pakistan right now, and it is appearing to hold. But tomorrow, the May 12th, it sounds like the next phase of the 2 leaders of each military will be getting together to talk about the next steps, and hopefully that's an extension of the ceasefire and we see longer-term peace. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.